Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Christine Dixon of the Ordinary Sacred, and we are still in our house. This is our last week in our house. We're getting rid of our furniture this week. And actually, by the time you watch this, we will have been out of our house for a couple weeks because I usually make the videos a couple weeks in advance. Um, so we'll be on the road. And today, though, still from our house, I am excited to answer a question that I got. It probably from one of my Instagram stickers where I asked for questions. This is a great one. This person asks, how do I work with parts who think that IFS is imaginary? The reason why this is a great question is because many, many people, if not most people, have this part early on. They have likely some parts, or maybe their self who resonates with IFS, has some kind of inclination toward hopefulness or wanting to try it and resonance with it. But then there can also be another part or parts that feel skeptical that say, are you just making things up? Is this just imaginary, wishful thinking, or just made up, right? And so the first thing I would advise you to do with that part is to really see if you can feel curious about them, because that would mean you're coming toward them with some self energy. You're not shaming them or trying to get rid of them, but getting really curious about what their concern is, what their fear is. Sometimes I'll even ask those parts, okay, let's say it is imaginary. What, and which I don't believe it is, but I'll say if it were imaginary, why is that bad? Right? Why do you fear something imaginary? Because, for example, we can read stories or parables, fables, metaphors that aren't literal, right? They're somewhat imaginary or metaphorical, and yet they can have an even deeper truth to them. Sometimes our parts will actually communicate with us in metaphor. It's not a literal thing. So I'm trying to get from them, what if some of the things that we're experiencing aren't literal? Can you maybe kind of proposing an experiment to this part? Can you be open to the deeper truth underneath that and just see if it's practical, if it's helpful, or not? And if you feel like it's all imaginary, it's not helpful, then you can shut it down because we're never trying to steamroll parts. They always have a say. So you don't want to go forward until that part feels at least a little bit of willingness to see, to try it out. Now, the second thing I would say is sometimes these are parts that are pointing to other parts who kind of are trying to make up answers. When we go inside and we ask a part a question, there can be another part that sometimes I'll call a thinking part, or it might be this part that really feels like I have to get it right. I have to get the right answer, right? And we are trained from a very young age to, especially in school, to come up with the right answer and basically to use the left side of our brain, our analyzing, um, figure it out part of our brain to come up with a correct answer. And then we're punished if we don't get the right answer. So it makes sense that we often will have a part that will come to the front really quickly and try to say the right answer. So if we ask a part, how old are you? There might be another part that's like, I think it was about this time when this was happening, so I was probably 7, right? And you can kind of hear that in the thinking as the part says, I think, it's probably, it might be, those kinds of things. That's how you can detect there's a thinking part trying to figure it out. And you can get to know that part and help it be able to relax so that you can just receive answers from parts. I often will tell people when I ask a part a question, it's really important that I allow space, right? Because that thinking part of the one that wants to give the right answer, it feels like I have to say it and I have to say it as quick as possible. And so that's why helping that one relax is important so that you can have space. And I tell people in the space of nothingness, and that might take a breath or two of silence, the answer comes. We can receive it. And we're not really used to receiving answers from our right brain, from our intuition, from parts that are a little more subconscious, even from perhaps higher power, right? Uh, Outside of ourselves. We're not used to waiting on that kind of intuition or receptiveness. But when we receive answers like that, whether it's from our body, from ourself, from a higher power, from a part itself, it feels like there's a person in front of us that is giving an answer, and we had no clue what they were going to say before we heard it or received it, right? Parts don't always speak. They sometimes will show you a symbol, they'll show you a memory, they'll give you a sensation in your body. Um, there'll be, sometimes they're giving you a little bit of a piece of the puzzle. And so they can kind of speak to us in lots of different ways. But it's in that open space of receptiveness where nothing needs to come. There's no right or wrong answer. Even nothing is okay, that a part will be able to give us an answer and then we receive it. So, in that sense, no one's making anything up. So, that's why I often use the word receive. And as your system, and particularly that kind of skeptical part, gains more and more experience and evidence that in the open space, you receive answers, they'll trust the process more and more. At least I know that's how my system has been. At the beginning, some of the stuff that my parts were saying, um, felt crazy to me. I mean, it was so vivid, and I had never been a creative person. I'd never had a really big imagination. And I would tell my husband the things my parts were saying, and he was like, "You need to write a book or make a movie out of this. It's fascinating." Right? But it was just, I was just receiving it. It was just coming to me, and it was as fascinating to me as it was to my husband because I wasn't making it up. It was like watching a movie myself and saying, oh my gosh, that's interesting. And as Dick Schwartz calls it, he calls it insight because as you receive things, you go, aha, you have so many ahas. Like someone is putting the puzzle pieces of your life together about how you and your behaviors make sense and what happened to you and how it fits with this and why you do that. And you just go, oh my goodness, wow, right? Even sensations in your body or illnesses and ailments you've had, uh, they all make sense. And it's like, it was dark and someone turned on the light and now you can see it. And so when you start to have that clarity, that aha, and you see how, or your parts see how beneficial it is to make that space and receive the answers, they begin to love it. And then some of those thinking parts that kind of wanted to analyze and think up the answer, I'll tell them, hey, if you relax back and you let me receive an answer from parts, then you can come in afterward and analyze it and think about it. And they love that. Because they realize, oh my gosh, I'm going to have this insight, this incredible new information to think about and analyze afterward. So that's kind of my response to the parts who are afraid that things are imaginary, the parts who are trying to make things up, and just receiving from your parts, from self, from your body, from the universe. It really does feel like a powerfully magical, illuminating experience. So if you have any questions about that, or any experiences you want to share, please feel free to share them in the comments below.